everyone, welcome to Deepika Makeup. Hope you all are doing super awesome. So in this video I'm going to share my thoughts on the very famous Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture palette. A lot of people spoke about this palette. Most of them are negative, some of them are positive, and some of them are somewhere in between. So I personally wasn't able to make my mind until I tried out this palette. So if you want to know my thoughts on this, stay tuned. Subculture retails for $42. It comes with this beautiful teal velvet packaging. I really like the packaging, and it comes with 14 eyeshadows and also a very nice usable dual-ended brush. Out of the 14 eyeshadows, we have only 3 shimmery eyeshadows, and rest of them 11 are matte eyeshadows, which is one of the reasons I fell for this palette. When Anastasia released the pictures of this palette, I was really excited because the color scheme of this palette is very different from what palettes we have in the market right now. There are a lot of like deep greens, these yellows, the mango color. I really like the color scheme of this palette. I thought once it gets released, I totally want to buy it and I will have a very different palette to play with in fall. But then a few days before the palette was to release, I was seeing a lot of videos popping up who got this palette as PR, and I saw a lot of negative reviews, so much rage about the quality of the eyeshadows. I was hearing that the eyeshadows are very smooth, that they are just coming off the palette just by tapping the brush on it. I was hearing that some of the eyeshadows are not pigmented, some are oxidizing, they were not blending well. Oh my god, so many complaints on this palette. So I immediately backed out from getting this, but my heart still was lingering around the beautiful shades in this palette. So every time I went to the store, I used to swatch them, and the pigmentation and the colors didn't disappoint me at all. So I grabbed it when I was getting this palette for 50% off, and I thought it's a really good time to try out this palette for myself. So these are the up-close swatches of all the shadows. These were swatched with a finger and without a primer. So first, to some positive things about the palette. So I still feel that the color scheme of this palette is very different. This palette still stands to be a very unique palette in terms of what colors we have in this palette. And I really like the fact that there are a lot of matte eyeshadows in this palette, and most of the matte eyeshadows are unique shades. Another thing that I look in a palette is if the palette can be worked on an everyday basis or not, and I think that this palette has some really nice neutral shades like this color, and this one I really enjoyed putting all over my eyelid, and this one in the crease and just blend as a transition color. This is to deepen up the crease, and this shade to put all over my eyelid. So on a daily basis, that's the eye makeup I would go for, so I'm good with the palette. Plus I have some very unique matte eyeshadows, and also these two iridescent eyeshadows that you can just put a base and add the iridescent shades on top of it. So I really like the fact that there are all the colors that I would need to do my everyday makeup, and also to play around with makeup if I'm feeling like adding some color on my eyes that day. And the third great thing about this palette is the pigmentation. Beautiful pigmentation. Every time I swatch the shades, the matte eyeshadows, they come out to be super pigmented. Let me just touch, just barely touch this shade. Look at the pigment. Okay, I'm going to swatch here. Look at the pigment. No fallout, beautiful pigment. I'm going to swatch another shade for you. So I'm going to swatch one of my favorite shades actually. This is Roxy. I love this color. Look at the pigment. I'm going to swatch it again. Pigmentation is unreal. For a matte eyeshadow to be this pigmented, I'm telling, this is seriously eyeshadow goals. Now let's talk about what actually happened when I started working with the shadows, and this is where everybody started showing their disappointment. So the first day I went for a very simple eye makeup that I would do on a daily basis. So I just put this all over my eyelid just to neutralize any pigmentation and set my primer. Worked well. And then I put this shade in my crease, just slightly dusted in my crease, and put this as a transition color. worked very well. And then I started putting this shade in my outer corner and also to deepen up my crease, and that's where the issue started. It took me a million years to blend both the shades. It took me a lot of time. Not that it didn't blend, but it took a very long time for me to blend. I do not like that when I'm doing my makeup. Usually in the morning, I do not want to spend hours and hours doing my makeup. I just want to get it done very quickly. And to just blend these two eyeshadows, it took me a very long time. It was there like a patch. So basically the pigmentation was there, but then the shades were not blending on my skin. So and then I finally took my time and blended them out, and then I wanted to put this eyeshadow all over my eyelid. So this is a beautiful goldy green shade. It comes off very nicely when I swatch with my finger. There you go. It's an iridescent shadow. It has flecks of, you know, chunks of shimmer in it, but then I'm used to working with those eyeshadows. If you apply with a wet brush or put it on top of a base, they usually work, but this eyeshadow did not. So first I started putting it with a dry brush all over my eyelid, nothing came out, and then I put a base and I started putting this with my finger. I wasn't satisfied. Then I went with a wet brush. It was still not okay. Usually with a wet brush, these formulas should be looking like a nice, vibrant and metallic eyeshadow. This didn't give me that look at all. And the next thing I was looking for is to add a brow bone highlight. I'm used to using a brow bone highlight, and this palette doesn't have any brow bone highlight. The best I have is this color, which is almost the shade of my skin color and a little bit deeper. So I do not have a brow bone highlighting shade in here, so I either have to pull out another eyeshadow or I have to use the same highlight that I put on my cheeks. So that's the next thing. So I was already disappointed on the first day that it took a lot of time for me to do my eye makeup, and this eyeshadow disappointed me. And the next day I tried to use some more colors. So initially my thought was, even if the shadows didn't work together, I thought I would just go with a one shadow look, you know, just apply eyeshadow, blend just the edges, and I would be good with like a really nice colorful eye makeup or even like a smoky eye. So I started picking the colors. So first went with Edge. Looked like mud on my skin, and it even turned a little bit gray on my skin. Then I went with Mercury, just like a all over eyelid color, still looked like mud. And then I tried All Star and put it in my crease, and it's the same. It still didn't work and takes time to blend. I tried New Wave, which I was most excited because it's a beautiful mango yellow color. Doesn't look good on my skin color at all. I didn't even want to try this shade Untamed because first of all, I'm not really excited about that color at all. And the same with Destiny. These are the two shades that I'm least expecting from this palette, so I didn't even touch them. When the rest all disappointed, I don't even care about these two eyeshadows. Same went with Axis. I didn't even like it, and every eyeshadow had serious fallout. When I tried to work with this iridescent green shade, I had flecks of glitter all over my face all day long. In all the matte eyeshadows, I tried every single color. I had fallout on my cheeks. It's been a very long time that I came across eyeshadows that had fallout. And then Cube was a very disappointing shade. It doesn't come onto my brush at all. Like, can you see, it's a white, icy white shade with the pink iridescence to it. It's so beautiful. Put it on top of a black base or a blue or a green base, it looks so beautiful. But this doesn't want to come onto a brush or onto my finger at all. And when I put a wet brush on it, it just formed like a, you know, a crusty film on top that I have to scrape to, you know, work with this eyeshadow again. And the last shade that I didn't try is Adone, which is nice. It's a regular neutral brown eyeshadow that I like to put on my eyelid. But then when the rest of them are not working, I don't even want to touch that eyeshadow because I'll have the same eyeshadow in a million of my palettes, so I don't even want to try it. Even though the formula is good on that, I'm not even bothered at this point. And then after 4 or 5 hours, when I went back to check how my makeup was doing, the eyeshadows actually faded. This iridescent green eyeshadow that I had all over my eyelid, all the flecks were on my face. The shadow wasn't intense. First of all, the shadow wasn't intense while applying, and then it lost most of its color after 4 or 5 hours. And also these two matte eyeshadows that I put in the crease, even these were fading, and my eye makeup just looked so flat after 4 or 5 hours, which is very disappointing. So another thing that I want to mention is right when I tap the brush on the pan, there's a lot of fallout inside the pan, just around the palette. It's very messy. Yes, you get a lot of color on the brush, but look at it. When I tap, can you see all that dust? And most of the color is gone from the brush. That is how powdery it is. So just by swatching this palette with a finger, do not go and buy it, because there are so many issues with the shadows and the way they perform on the skin. There's so many issues. Something that I hate doing to my makeup is directly blowing on the palette. I do not like doing it. I don't like blowing on my brush directly. It's putting a lot of bacteria from my mouth onto my skin. I just don't like it. So I hate the fact that I have to blow onto this palette to just fly away all the kickoff after doing my makeup. So after trying out this palette for myself, I would say no, do not waste your money. Even if you're getting it for 50%, 75%, whatever percentage of off, I would say don't go for it, because this is a palette that you have to invest a lot of time to do your eye makeup. And on top of it, even if you do your eye makeup and you're successful with it, after a few hours there's no guarantee that the shades would look that vibrant on your eyes. And when I have so many eyeshadow palettes, even from drugstore, that I spent less than $5 or $10, that performs so well for me, I do not want to keep this in my collection at all. This palette is seriously a disappointment. It's a lot of work, and after spending so much money, I don't want to invest the time to do my makeup. Alright, so those are my thoughts. If you think I saved your money, please hit on the thumbs up button, and also do subscribe to my channel along with clicking on the bell icon so you can get notified when I upload a new video. That's a wrap, and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Bye.